Good afternoon and welcome to What Comes Next Live. It's 5 o'clock in the UK, and as you can see, I now have lighting issues because it's now dark at 5 o'clock because the clock's changed here. For our American audience, the Brits are 2 weeks ahead of you, as they always are twice a year with the clocks changing. So our guest this afternoon, coming live and direct with better lighting than me from level 39 in Canary Wharf, is Ali Arslan. Ali is a member of the Genie Shares community, and those who caught up with the podcast last week will have seen me talking to Ben Braben, whose idea it was and who is the champion for that. And in homage to that, my virtual background today is a picture I took from the level 39, the best coffee shop in London, the level 39 coffee shop. So our show's What Comes Next. So I've not met Ali before, but I look forward to hearing his story, for him to introduce himself, and we shall talk for half an hour about what comes next. Over to you, Ali.
Hi there, Tom. Thank you very much for inviting me to What Comes Next. It is a pleasure. My name is Ali Arslan. I came to the UK when I was 9 years of age in 1989. So you could figure out what my age is now. And so I come from a small village in Turkey, a hazelnut farm, which I always emphasize when I tell my story. And I studied electronic engineering at King's College London. Then I briefly worked for the Ministry of Defence at various technology projects. And for the last 7-8 years, I've been doing my own entrepreneurial work, startups. I have a good number of failed startups under my belt, which I'm proud of. They've taught me a lot, Tom. But slowly, I think I'm onto a winner. I'm onto some good, potentially valuable projects that will be hopefully will make value for people using it, and will be a success very soon. Let's see what comes next.
Actually, let me just go straight into something you just said. You've got a number of failed startups under your belt.
Yes.
Which you're proud of.
Yes, of course.
Now, I'm, as somebody who's been an entrepreneur, also invested in entrepreneurs. That's a topic, how people approach, both how they approach failed startups, but also their definition of failure. So tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on being proud of failed startups. I'm really intrigued.
So I think what it shows is, I mean, I really think a person with 2 failed startups is a better prepared person than someone with 0 failed startups, because you know, I've had the journey, I've made the mistakes, and I've learned a lot from it. As long as I don't make the same kind of mistakes, I think it will be a sort of a learning curve that I will take for the rest of my life. One of the failed startups was, I had an SMS marketing company. This was like 7-8 years ago, and it was going really well. I mean, I had over 450 pizza shops that I did SMS marketing for in London. So if anyone's received an SMS marketing from a pizza shop, an unbranded pizza shop, it was most probably from my systems. However, after GDPR, when GDPR came into effect, that automatically failed, because pizza shops hadn't, you know, they didn't have consent for SMS marketing. So it was something that I wasn't prepared for, and I didn't know, and that's why it failed. I then moved on to doing a very similar thing, but with WhatsApp. As you know, WhatsApp has an amazing penetration rate, a reading rate of 98%. It's much better than SMS. Everyone uses it. My mother uses it. My children use it. Everyone loves WhatsApp. And I did, you know, before WhatsApp Business was out, we were the second company in the world that actually did WhatsApp Business. So there was no WhatsApp Business. We did WhatsApp Business. It was a company called Campaigner, me and a co-founder. And we are very proud. We managed to sell our services to the Conservative Party, and Theresa May was leading the Conservative Party then. This was just after Brexit. It makes me very proud, because being at level 39, having that sort of reach, having conservative parties sign a document, an NDA document, and having them actually, we actually, I'm actually very proud because we actually made them take a step back, because their initial NDA, Tom, said that we're not allowed to brag about it. We cannot tell anybody about our services, that we provide services to conservative parties. But what we told them is, hey, look, if you want that sort of agreement, you're going to have to pay the full price. Here's the price list. Or if you want, the sort of kind of offer that we are doing, then we want to have some sort of bragging rights. And it went up and down, sort of very senior levels, and then they sort of fenced what we can say and what we can't say. And I'm very happy and open to say that we have actually sold technology to Conservative Party. I could say that they used our WhatsApp platform for some of their constituents, some of their campaigns. However, soon afterwards, WhatsApp blocked all our accounts. So our underlying technology is WhatsApp, Tom. So it was the next GDPR for me. Again, something I wasn't prepared for. I had very senior talks with WhatsApp people in the UK. And what they said is there are 4 sectors that they don't give WhatsApp to. Health is one of them. Betting is one of them. So debt collection agencies is one of them. Mm-hmm. And finally, politicians is one of them. I understand debt collection agencies, but why politicians? I suppose it's kind of a debt collection agency, who knows?
And given they're owned by Facebook, it's even more ironic.
Yes, absolutely. So they said this is way above our pay scale, that this is Mark Zuckerberg stuff, and I don't think it is going to change very soon. And that we're just not able to provide services to politicians. So then again, my campaign up startup failed as well. But I've learned so much from building those companies, selling our services, meeting lots of amazing people. So I had a really good team. So I'm actually very proud of it. If I was to go back in time, would I do the same things? Yes. Would I do it differently? Absolutely. I would do it differently. But life is a learning curve, Tom, and I've learned a lot.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I can't remember the precise quote, but I think there's an Edison quote around, before he invented the light bulb. He said he didn't fail. He just found 10,000 ways to succeed differently. And so you could be, uber positive thinking about this. However, it's when I totally agree with you, having been an investor, if you put 2 identical business propositions next to each other, one of the things I'm looking for is how many times have you failed? And if the person has never done their own business before, and you put them against somebody who has but failed, I'm already leaning into the person who failed. However, I'm leaning in towards them, but the answer to the next question is really important. What did you learn? Because you got hit by black swan events, right? Like when you started, you didn't know there was going to be a highly unlikely event with a high impact, like COVID has been for the world. But GDPR, and who was to know that WhatsApp would blacklist politicians and block you? So it's always, I'm always interested in what people learn. The classic one for me, not in tech, is restaurants. Mm-hmm. Almost every successful restaurateur went bankrupt once.
Absolutely right.
It's not a terribly difficult business to have a winning formula on, I would say, having done it a lot. But if you go bankrupt more than once, yeah, I'm probably not interested. But there's some very key learnings that most restaurateurs just think they've got a great idea and they just rock into it. Once they have a winning formula, my next question is this your first restaurant? And if they've got a winning formula, the answer is almost always, no, I've done this before. It failed. What did you learn? And they'll always have learned the lessons that need to be learned, plus a few others. So, I just jumped into that conversation about what comes next. So you've got several things on the go right now, and without getting into trade secrets or anything, pick one of them and tell us from what you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey, what have you done differently to perhaps reduce the risk of being landed on by a big black swan?
Yes. So, for example, right now I have a visa and business consultancy firm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it is flourishing thanks to Brexit. So everyone is in a big rush to get the current visa statuses that is available now. So what we specialize in is the business visa. So the Home Office has different tied levels of business visa that is available to entrepreneurs and people who have some amount of investment they could make in their startup. And we've only got 2 months left, so there's an influx of applications. What I did differently this time, Tom, is that I borrowed different methodologies from different sort of successful companies. So, for example, we do not have any full-time staff. We call them partners, and they work for us on a contract basis. So what that means is that think of it like an Uber driver. So a potential client becomes a case, and we fill all the documents needed for that case and submit the visa application. So we 2 months ago, it was just 3 of us in the company. Right now, there's 28 people. So we had a phenomenal growth.
Wow.
That is a phenomenal growth, but it's all thanks to my learning curve from my startup background. So we have like think of it like Uber drivers. We have Uber consultants. So some person may say, "Hey Ali, this week I cannot take any cases. I'm very busy. I'm doing something else." Some person might say, "I'm actually available and I could take up to 3 cases." So depending on how available they are, and if they're willing to accept such cases, those customers, I'm able to distribute as many or as less cases to my team as possible. So we made this amazing sort of system where we are very scalable. So for example, if we had double the number of potential clients coming in, I could quickly add 5 or 10 more consultants, and I could pass on the cases to them, because we work on a case-by-case basis, on a contract basis, which means that I could scale up very quickly and scale down very quickly, and everyone is happy. It's a win-win for all. What we've also done is, because we have a huge team of 28 consultants, say someone is applying for a health tech business. They want to set up a health tech business in the UK. So out of these 28 consultants, we connect them to the consultant who has a background in health tech and who has had some success or failures in health tech. So when we make that connection and they have this 30-minute free introductory call, the potential client is already amazed, because they are speaking to someone who lives in the UK, who has this amazing experience in the health tech scene. So they speak the same language. So it becomes a conversion much more easier than if they were to speak to someone who's not in a health tech industry, for example. So I borrowed all these models from successful businesses, and it's actually flourished right now, Tom. I'm very proud of Co-Legal.
Very cool. So specifically, what was the key learning you took from prior experience that had you land on that model? Is it as simple as just don't employ people? Or was it more complicated than that?
No. I mean, there's nothing wrong with employing people.
Absolutely.
But if you are in a domain where you cannot foresee the amount of work you're going to do, for example, growing from 3 to 28 in 2 months is a huge growth, then it's very difficult to employ people anywhere. And so it's a bit more costly. So I'm not saying we are the most profitable company, but definitely we are a very high quality scalable company, because we worked on a consultant basis.
It's interesting. I mean, I lived in the Caribbean for 27 years, and I've just today, what they call in England, exchanged contracts on my first house I bought here. And for those overseas, England has the most archaic and fixed with sticking plasters and band-aids land and property sale system. It's surreal. It just doesn't make any sense. So exchanging contracts simply means that after 3 months, the contract is now firm. It's ready to close. What was really interesting to me is the mix of an arcane and archaic system with people have seen a gap for what is effectively a commodity, doing the legal work. And I paid less than £400, right, before the different search fees and stuff, but for this. And so it's incredibly, and it's done through effectively what sounds like you're doing with that business is you're an introducer. You created a portal to introduce people, right? And interestingly enough, my lawyer worked out that they could take on as much of this as they want by automating as much of the system as they could, by having the client do the work of uploading documents onto a portal, sending reminders, etc. And so I was ready about 6 weeks ago. The other side of the equation, the seller of the property, their lawyers charged a little bit more, but I would imagine they're going to make a lot less, right? Because they didn't have it automated and everything was done with phone calls and letters and in 2020. So it's just fascinating seeing the gap. Somebody saw the gap for these introducer services. And of course, in the UK, this has been a big thing for a long time with things like insurance, retail insurance. And it's so funny because it doesn't really exist the same way in the USA. Their legal property system is not the same. It doesn't work the same way. And so the fees are much higher. It fascinates me when people see the gap. And it's going from 3 to 28 in 2 months is quite fascinating. So, as you mentioned, giving an example of that to pivot a bit, Brexit will happen. So I guess one of the learnings, conscious or otherwise, was to go with the opportunity. All right. You might have another business that's import export, and you'll be going, right, well, I can export a ton of stuff from the UK in the next 2 months. And then I'll probably get no orders for the next 3 or 4 months. Right. But meanwhile, if I've got a business visa business, that's going to keep thriving. It won't have the same rush on as it does right now. But, it's like you see an opportunity when people start putting friction in the system like Brexit, there's going to be an opportunity for the people who can alleviate that. Right. So really cool you're doing that. So what comes next for you as an entrepreneur? Let's look at it being entrepreneurial. What gaps are you seeing?
Yes. Tom, I am a self-identified WhatsApp expert. That's what I call myself. So the 2 of my startups are based on WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. That journey, like the communication between people, businesses, communities, it really excites me. Like first, people were writing letters. Then there was the fax machine. Then I suppose there's the SMS, there's the email. And now WhatsApp has sort of dominated even business messaging. For example, with our visa and business consultancy, I receive around 250 WhatsApp messages a day, and maybe about 10 emails a day. I mean, that just shows you how much my business has moved to WhatsApp. Every of our clients, every one of them, they have WhatsApp messages, and they prefer to write WhatsApp messages because they know that the end person will read it and respond to it much more quicker than an email. What really fascinates me is I still couldn't figure out if you could please help me, but what comes next after WhatsApp? I mean, there is going to be something in 5 years' time. It's not going to be WhatsApp. What it is going to be, I do not know. If you do know, or if you have any hints, Tom, please let me know.
Well, 2 thoughts occurred to me from that.
Yes.
One is, and both of them are what I would call, because I always come with a coaching mindset, and coaches always looking for what sits behind everything, and I tend to call that context. So if I raise the context a little bit, imagine we're walking through the forest, and we look just to lift our head above the tree line so we can see how far the forest extends or what the weather's like, etc. So the first thing is you're a WhatsApp expert, but at a certain level, if I perhaps gave you any business that involved communicating between the business and its customers, right, you would probably be able to go, this is a way you can do all or part of this better by integrating WhatsApp. right? So actually you're in the business communications business, but you're seeing a gap because people don't use WhatsApp. So the other thing, the thing that then links to me is I've of course got no idea what's going to emerge, but what you're seeing is, you know, I moved to the Cayman Islands in 1989. At the time, it had the largest number of fax machines per capita in the world. Right.
Oh.
Within 5 years, the fax machine was obsolete because of email. And what was email about? It was about immediacy. What was the fax machine about? It was about immediacy. Because if you lived in a small island of the Caribbean, when there were law firms looking for work to move around the world very quickly, you had 24/7 fax machine fax rooms going all the time because you couldn't afford everything to go by letter, and FedEx only arrived once a day. Even during COVID, FedEx large wide body aircraft arrive in the Cayman Islands most days. They lawyers still need hard copy documents sometimes, right? So I think if you raise the context, if you lift yourself off the tree line, is what's the solution that WhatsApp provides that was previously provided by somebody else? But I'd also say perhaps your expertise is what are you seeing that others don't see that can be addressed with WhatsApp? Because it would never, what you did say is that people respond to WhatsApps more quickly than emails. That's really interesting to me. If you remember a number of years ago, there was something called Viber that was quite well used, at least in the Americas. And then of course you had MSN Messenger and you had text and you had WhatsApp, and they all came about all at once roughly. And I had a team, a business I ran, who were very different generationally. There were quite a spread of ages and backgrounds. And to communicate within the team, it took ages for us to create a standard of how we communicate, right? Because some preferred different platforms. Some of the younger people didn't even have email loaded on their smartphones. Oh, I don't check my emails on my phone. I wait till I get to my laptop. But if you WhatsApp me, I'll reply. So that's just fascinating to me to be reminded that people respond to, because I guess the thing with email, WhatsApp and the famous blue ticks, 98% of people read them, right? Yes. Or almost instantly, very quickly. The tyranny of the blue tick, we could call it. I'm actually a huge fan of, to veer off, I'm a huge fan of Jason Fried and David Hennemeyer Hansen, who run Basecamp, a startup that bootstrapped with no funding and now makes tens of millions. And they're big believers in asynchronous communication, but then they're coders, right? Writing code. You know, they like to concentrate. But what you're saying is that there's an expectation it will be read and responded to, whereas email's much more asynchronous. So with that in mind, I guess my thought process is twofold. One, what is the solution that you offer as an expert in this, that any business watching this or listening to this later could say, I need to talk to Ali, he's an expert on this. And the second thing is, my answer to your question is, it's going to be something about immediate response. And what might that be in 5 years? It might be, do you remember the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
Yes, of course.
And there's a point where he's trying to run to escape, but because they can do iris recognition, he's running through a shopping mall and the ads on the electronic billboards change and talk to him as he runs through there. You know, we have given up privacy for convenience years ago with social media. So things will become more and more instant, and people will start having body mods, and so you'll just get the computer inside your glasses or on your eyeball, and you'll get an alert with a tick. So I don't know. So what are you expert at?
So I think the answer to your question is not, I mean, immediate response is only half the answer.
Yeah.
Tom. I think the correct answer is the immediate right response, the immediate personalized response. That is actually what makes the deal. So, I mean, marketing has changed so much over the years. I mean, if you go back 10, 15 years ago, you're a big brand, you get a celebrity to endorse your brand, you put it on newspapers, you put it on TV, gosh, it's done, right? But right now, you have to have an omni-channel, you have to be on all the different social media, you have to have a golden thread that sort of connects all the different parts together. So one person seeing Instagram immediately recognizes the same contact on Facebook, on Twitter, etc. And these are all different platforms. And even that is not enough. What is happening, where it is going right now, albeit slowly, I think, is that I would see different personalized messages, marketing from the brands I love than to the messages that you will see, Tom. For example, say we both like Ted Baker. We are big fans of Ted Baker. When you open your Facebook, pardon?
As we probably both are, it would seem.
Yes, of course, and I love Ted Baker. For example, when you open Facebook, you need to see Ted Baker adverts for maybe like shoes, and then I may see Ted Baker adverts for jackets, because that is what I am in the mood of buying or looking for. So it's not just the Ted Baker advert; it has to be the right Ted Baker advert that needs to go to your eyes, and that takes. I mean, it's really easily said, but the technology behind it is actually very complicated, I think.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just assume, which I think may be a good guess, that we're both Ted Baker fans, but we get retargeting ads following us around the internet already, right? When we buy stuff at their website. But yes, you're right. It's not, oh, he likes shirts, he likes jackets, he likes shoes. So there's two things around WhatsApp for me. One is that it's linked to your cellular phone number, and most people don't change their cell phone, whereas they might change their email address. So it's a bit like the evolution will be towards something implanted in your body, probably. But what's the specificity? What's the specific edge? I'm not seeing it because I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not seeing what makes WhatsApp a particularly valuable tool for increasingly mass customized marketing.
I mean, there's amazing stats about how quickly the messages are read, are responded, and so as a brand, Tom, you have to be where the eyes are looking at. And right now, the eyes are looking at mobile phones, and on the mobile phones, they are looking at WhatsApp. So in the morning, when you wake up, whether you're a teenager or you're a man of my age,
or a man of my advanced years. Yes, I look at WhatsApp in the morning. Yeah.
So you look at your WhatsApp first, and before you go to sleep, you check your WhatsApp last. So it like throughout the day, WhatsApp follows you, and you actively engage with it, because WhatsApp has managed to come into your personal space, i.e. the space that you have connection with your family and friends. And if you're able to bring the brands that you love there in there as well, selected brands, not all, because then WhatsApp will fail and turn into the next email, then it will be actually very valuable for you. So if you are looking to buy a Ted Baker shoe, and you had that Ted Baker shoe on sale and it came to your WhatsApp, you are very likely to engage with that ad. So, but it will take some time, Tom.
So I'll throw an idea out. I have a friend who has a history in supporting political parties around campaigns. Okay. And they told me around a year ago, at the time of the general election in the UK, that they were waking up in the morning after the evening news and Newsnight or whatever, and they were deciding, what might the messaging be in public by this evening from last night? And they were able to run focus groups with A, B, and CD marketing in 8 hours nationally.
Wow.
And so I guess as long as you're not in a blocked category, such as politics, so they clearly weren't using WhatsApp, healthcare and the other two you mentioned, maybe if people are actually wanting to do lightning fast, alternative approach comms or marketing testing, you're probably the guy to talk to, right? Because they can turn it around and go, okay, how many people do you want to talk to on WhatsApp? How quickly do you want them to respond to your messages? Okay, we can be polling people on products or brands in half a day rather than 3 weeks. Yeah, sorry, you've got my entrepreneurial juices going. This was not I never know what to expect with a conversation. We should just take a minute to tell us what drew you to Genie Shares, to link back to Ben Braben and Genie Shares, and what have you committed to that?
Oh yes, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. So I love the idea of Genie Shares, giving back to the community, giving to key workers, especially during COVID period. They have done amazing work. And when Ben mentioned the Genie Shares project, I immediately fell in love with it. And I have pledged 1% of my startup wishlist alerts to go to a deserving member of the NHS. And I really want to make wishlist alerts a success, and maybe not even stop at the 1%, but I really would like a deserving, unsuspecting member of the NHS, community, key worker, to be very, very, very happy one day and receive something that they didn't wake up to receive.
Didn't wake up to receive. Brilliant. So where can we find you online?
Okay, so so my LinkedIn is Ali Arslan. My startup is called Wishlist Alerts. My visa business consultancy is called Colegal, and my social impact project is called Community News Matters.
Community News Matters. That's great.
Yes, Community News Matters.
And of course, we have genieshares.com. And I'm very lazy, so I choose to make this easy for the guests and myself, so I don't put show notes for the podcast. But on the webpage, WhatComesNext.Live, and on the YouTube links, you can find Ali through that. And I know he has all of this information on his LinkedIn profile. So it's been really fascinating getting a repeat entrepreneur who has learned from his succeeding in different ways and has now got 3, and I'm sure several more to come, entrepreneurial ventures on the go. So absolutely fascinating. Thanks so much for joining us, and yet another interesting guest on What Comes Next Live. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Tom.